My name is Katherine, and I live with my husband, Tom. One day, an incident happened. It was while I was preparing for my grandmother's 88th birthday celebration. There was a ring I absolutely wanted to wear, and I thought I should prepare it before I forget. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find it. This ring was given to my mom by my grandma when she got married, and my mom often wore it when she went out. I admired it as a child. "Your ring is so pretty. It makes you look like a princess," I told her every time. My mom always smiled kindly and said,
I'll give it to you when you get married, Katherine.
"We made that promise 15 years ago." When I was in college, my mom was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Before she passed away, she gave me that ring.
I'm sorry. I really wanted to give it to you when you got married. It seems I can't make it that far. I wonder what kind of bride Katherine will be. I wanted to see you in your wedding dress. I guess I'm getting greedy.
I can't forget the troubled smile on my mom's face. After my mom passed away, I wore that ring at every important moment in my life. It felt like my mom was watching over me. Later, as an adult, I met Tom at work and we got married. We were hired the same year. He was in sales and I was in administration. We became close while going out for drinks with our colleagues. Of course, I wore my mom's ring at our wedding. I had told Tom about my mom before we got married, so he should have known how much I cherished that ring. Or so I thought. When I couldn't find the ring anywhere, I asked Tom about it. Then, he said something unbelievable. At that time, I couldn't have imagined it would lead to such a dramatic scene. I'm planning to wear that ring for my grandma's birthday next month. But don't you know where it is?
The one that was in there. I lent it to Susan.
What? Are you serious?
What? Was there a problem?
I wondered if this was what they meant when they said, "I'm so shocked that I'm speechless." I could certainly not lend it to just anyone, but lending it to Susan was out of the question. Susan was Tom's childhood friend, and perhaps because her father was a CEO, she seemed naive and airy. I had been concerned about how close Susan and Tom were since we were dating. For instance, she would call him without regard during our dates,
I got dumped.
and then he would leave our date to rush to her. If I went to Tom's place where he lived alone, Susan would be there waiting with her own set of keys.
Oh, Tom. Was it a date? I thought we could watch a movie together, so I bought dinner and stuff.
I have plans to, you know. Sorry, Katherine. I'll make it up to you.
This wasn't just once or twice. Since I didn't have childhood friends or male friends, I wasn't sure if their closeness was normal. But after it happened several times, I couldn't stand it anymore and confronted Tom. "Hey, could you maybe reconsider your closeness with Susan? Honestly, it's not fun when our plans get canceled over and over."
Are you jealous of Susan? No way. She's really like a sister to me, and there's absolutely no romance, so don't worry.
It seemed he had no intention of changing his relationship with Susan. Aside from the issue with Susan, Tom was really kind, fun to be with, and I loved him. I wonder if the sense of distance will naturally change once we get married. There was a part of me that thought about it lightly, but that was a big mistake. After we got married and started living together, Susan moved into her own place nearby. Then she started calling Tom for trivial things like, "There's a bug," or "the power went out and it's scary." Honestly, it was frustrating that he would go every time. The last straw was when she showed up at our wedding planning session. She showed up and announced again today.
Sorry. I have a wedding planning session now.
What? The wedding venue? Oh, I want to come too.
Really? Why? Well, okay then.
Wait a minute. While thinking, well, okay then, what's that supposed to mean? I immediately tried to stop it, but
Is it okay with you, Katherine? I won't get in the way of you two, so please don't mind me.
Tom was all set to bring her, and Susan was all set to go. I knew it would lead to a fight if I said something. I didn't want to fight before the meeting, so I decided to let her come. I guess it's okay if she's just there. I fought. But then she completely ignored us, trying on dresses and chiming in during the meeting. The planner and I just exchanged dry smiles. As for Tom and Susan,
You look great. I feel like a proud dad. I might cry at your wedding.
Oh, that's hilarious.
they were having a carefree conversation. After we got home that day, of course, Tom and I had a huge fight. Tom seemed clueless about what he did wrong. I thought, it's useless to say anything, and from that day on, I ignored any topic about Susan to avoid fights. It seemed to have some effect. Susan's unannounced visits decreased, and she wasn't brought up in our conversations as often, though it seemed she was still calling on Tom from time to time. So I couldn't understand and didn't want to understand why he would lend her my ring. I ended up yelling, "Why? Tell me, what's going on?"
Don't raise your voice.
I have every right to be loud. Give me a proper explanation.
Well, she said she needed to borrow it. Susan is apparently getting married, but her boyfriend doesn't have much money.
But why does that involve my ring?
You remember, right? Susan's dad is a CEO and he said, I won't approve of a guy who can't even buy an engagement ring. And even brought up marriage talks. Isn't that sad?
I'm totally lost here.
So, having a ring just for show is a good thing, right? Susan was looking for one and found that ring. She was crying and said, please lend it to me, so I just lent it to her.
What? You mean she went through her stuff? That's like theft.
Don't say such rude things. Susan is like a sister to me. So, she should be like family to you too, Katherine, right? It's not like I gave it away, I just lent it. Don't complain.
I couldn't accept his reasoning, and he kept throwing illogical arguments at me. I had reached my limit. I stormed off to Susan's place.
Hey, where are you going?
Confused, Tom followed me. When I rang the intercom, a carefree voice answered.
Hello, though, Katherine and Tom.
Sorry, can you open the door? We need to talk.
What?
She opened the door, looking puzzled. Can you return the ring you took without permission?
I can't right now.
What are you thinking? You're going through someone's house and taking their stuff. That's theft, you know?
That's so funny. Tom said it was okay.
That ring is mine.
Katherine, cut it out. How many times do I have to tell you it was just a loan? It's embarrassing to ask for a loaned item back, so stop it. Besides, that dirty old ring, who cares?
What? Sure, the design might be old-fashioned, but it's a ring that means a lot to me. There's no way I could lend it to someone, especially not to Susan, who is practically a stranger. I was so furious with Susan's mocking attitude, as if she had no intention of returning it, and with Tom, who acted as if I was being unreasonable for not lending it, that I was barely holding back the urge to hit them. Fine.
I thought you'd understand, Katherine.
I'm calling the police.
What? You're kidding, right? They won't come for something like this.
Calling the police is overly dramatic. You're quite amusing, Katherine.
Ignoring their snickering, I called the police. When the police arrived, I was in for even more surprises. As soon as the police arrived, I was surprised.
Katherine,
Charlie?
you're a police officer. Sorry to bother you with this nonsense.
Charlie looked suspiciously at Tom and Susan, who showed up after saying that.
You guys again? Wait, Katherine, you know these people?
My husband and his friend.
What?
Tom and Susan looked momentarily flustered. But then Tom caught on.
Didn't this guy just call her Katherine?
Yeah, he did.
Cheating, huh? What a scandalous woman and cop. Talking about tax theft. This is what they mean.
The anger that had momentarily subsided after the surprise encounter with Charlie earlier now welled up again. Tom, who never listens to others, was the cause of it. This guy is a friend of my brother and married to Beth. You've talked to him before, right?
What? Having an affair with your best friend's husband? Openly?
Tom, misunderstanding everything, seemed to want to believe that Charlie and I were having an affair. At a loss for words, Charlie dropped a bombshell.
You mean I am having an affair with Katherine? That's impossible. I care too much about my wife. I couldn't do something like cheating, unlike you.
At his words, I looked at Charlie. What? What did you just say?
So, Katherine and I having an affair is impossible.
No, the last part.
I couldn't do something like cheating, unlike you.
What do you mean? I glared at Tom, pressing him for an answer.
No. That's.
Tom, who had been so assertive, suddenly became flustered. Why do you know, Charlie?
Them. I don't know what to say.
Tom was sweating unnaturally. Getting nowhere, I asked Charlie directly. Why do you know, Tom?
Actually, I met these people the day before yesterday at a love hotel.
What? It turned out it wasn't their first time visiting that love hotel. The reason the hotel staff remembered them was not only because they frequently took amenities, but also because they often took other items, making them persons of interest. That day, they had apparently taken a whole set of shampoo bottles and were reported.
They don't sell this stuff at the drugstore.
Susan had apparently been making lame excuses.
I was speechless to learn that Tom had become a criminal without my knowledge.
At that time, the matter was settled with Tom compensating for the stolen items, and no police report was filed. There were so many things to question, and first of all, the day before yesterday was supposed to be a weekday. Tom, who was supposed to be at work, had been skipping his rounds to cheat. Sometimes, you get so angry that you end up speechless.
Look, it's not like that, Katherine.
Didn't you say you only thought of her like a sister?
That wasn't a lie.
But you lent out my precious ring to your affair partner just like that.
No, that's not it. I just felt sorry for her as a friend.
Just give the ring back, I said, glaring at Susan. But she didn't even make a move to go get it, just stayed silent. Fine. If we're getting nowhere, let's involve our parents in this discussion, shall we? And of course, we'll talk about the affair too.
You can't possibly involve our parents in this, can you?
That's right. My dad is too busy for this.
If you can't call them, I'll file a police report. With that said, they must have realized I was serious. They both agreed with a fine. That night, I stayed at Beth and her husband's house. I vented my frustrations to them. Thanks to them, I was able to face the next day refreshed. The next day, both our families and Susan's family gathered.
What's going on, Katherine?
It seemed they hadn't been told anything. I glared at Tom and explained everything that had happened. Everyone except my family, who knew the situation, was left with their mouths agape.
It's not like that. There's been some misunderstanding.
That's right.
They both spoke, trying to cover up their fear of our parents.
That's right. You just had a little misunderstanding with Katherine, right?
Seeing their reaction, it was clear as day, but Mimo started to make excuses, which my Phil cut off with a shout.
Be quiet. Explain yourself properly.
It's really just a misunderstanding. See, Katherine has been working late recently, and I was feeling lonely, so Susan comforted me.
How is that a misunderstanding? That's a clear case of infidelity.
Tom was sweating profusely at my FIL's valid point. Susan just stood there, pale-faced.
I'm really sorry, Katherine. It's my fault for getting you involved in this mess,
Susan's father said, bowing deeply.
Susan, give it back now.
I don't have it.
She answered in a barely audible voice.
What are you saying? Hurry up and give it back.
I sent that ring to be redesigned.
What? You said it was just a loan, didn't you?
Well, it's so old-fashioned, and if I'm going to wear it, I want something cute.
That's just unbelievable.
Where did you send it?
What?
I got the name of the jewelry store where she had sent it for redesign and contacted them immediately. Fortunately, they hadn't started on it yet. After explaining the situation, they agreed to return it as it was. Though relieved, there was still something I had to do. I handed Susan a demand for compensation, seeing her somewhat relieved expression.
What?
It's not what.
I can't pay this amount.
I'm sorry, Katherine. It's my fault for not raising her right and causing you so much trouble. I'll make sure she pays the compensation out of her own savings or by selling her bags if necessary.
What? I don't want to do that. Dad, help me.
You're still saying that. You're no longer welcome in our house. Leave your cards and savings and get out. And of course, you're fired from the company.
I don't want that.
We will definitely make the payment, so we'll take our leave for today. I'm canceling the room right now. Susan's dad dragged her away as they left. Tom, who had been staring blankly at their departure, suddenly came to his senses.
Katherine, I'm truly sorry. It was just a momentary lapse of judgment. I couldn't stand by and do nothing when Susan was in trouble. I only love you, Katherine. I'll make amends from now on. Please, let's start over.
He began to prostrate himself. Lift your head.
No, I can't be at peace unless I do this much.
I don't need something that's not even worth a penny, so just pay the alimony and let's get a divorce.
What? Divorce? Why?
No, that's impossible. I can't live with a thief and being cheated on. There's no way I could forgive that, right? It seemed that was the first time he truly realized the gravity of his actions.
No, I don't want that. I'll do anything from now on. Please, cut it out.
Even now, as Tom continued to throw a tantrum, my Phil delivered a final blow.
You're responsible for all of this. At least take responsibility for your actions in the end.
Tom signed the divorce papers while crying. He used to say that being scolded as a child was so traumatic he couldn't forget it, so maybe that memory came back to him. I didn't file a police report, as it's often the case that you're not charged if the items are returned. Besides, I wanted as little to do with those two as possible. Afterward, the alimony was properly transferred, and the divorce was finalized. This is what I heard from others about what happened next. Having been disowned by her family, with nowhere to go, no money, and no job, Susan stormed over to her boyfriend's place. Then, she apparently walked in on him being intimate with another woman.
Cheating is unacceptable.
When she confronted him, he called her clingy and broke up with her. I heard she's now working at a nightclub. Tom, after paying for the hotel damages and alimony, was living paycheck to paycheck. Moreover, his company found out he had been slacking off during work hours. Since his sales performance wasn't great, he was encouraged to resign, which he did. No one seemed to know what happened to him after that. The ring was safely returned to its original state. I just felt sorry that I couldn't build the wonderful family my mom had hoped for when she entrusted me with the ring. And now I had ended up divorced. And then, years later, I recently ran into Tom again. I was shopping when I heard a familiar voice calling me. It was Tom. He had become so thin and haggard that I honestly didn't recognize him. Without me asking, Tom started talking about what happened after he quit his job.
It's been tough since then. I quit my job and had a hard time finding a new one. Just when I thought I had found work, Susan showed up at my workplace.
She blamed me for ruining her life.
She said something like that. I heard that Susan, who had been working in the nightclub, was later deceived by a romance scam. She's not only penniless now but also in debt. It's not even my fault. And because of that, I had to quit my job, which was really depressing. Since then, I've been hopping from one part-time job to another. What about you, Katherine? Still at the same company?
Well,
Katherine, you and I.
Tom stopped mid-sentence. I thought he noticed the ring I was wearing along with my mom's ring. Startled by a voice calling Mommy, I said, goodbye. And with that, I left. Tom stood there, dumbfounded. I had thought I would never marry again and was focusing all my energy on my work. Then I started dating a client from work who proposed, and we got married. He's a wonderful person who cherishes the things that are important to me. Now we're living happily together as a family of 3.